This episode of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Gohan from Dragon Ball Super, and you are listening to A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. Excuse me, Gohan, this is more of a narrator type thing. Okay. Just do it more like a, next time on Talk Time Live. Next time on Talk Time Live. Don't quit your day job, Gohan.
It's time. Talk time. Let's go. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live. Started in the 80s with Matt Cross. Dudes in the hood might have called that soft, but I carried that cross like Jesus did. Fast forward, I teach the kids to learn how to let go, live life, and show love to all things that don't matter where y'all from. And luckily, there's a show called Talk Time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Dax kicks the facts on all the geek news, special guests and unbiased reviews. Suburban kids, the hipster street dudes, all can learn something new. Me too. I heard words with no faith is empty. I stayed the course, so my haters tempt me. Beat the podcast, that'll make them envy. It ain't too trendy, it's A.C.M.G. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. Come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live. Yeah. All right. So you want to know my story, huh? Okay. They all up on their high horse like equestrians. A lifetime ago, we used to be the best of friends, but things changed. Now I'm feeling stressed again. I got my sword leveled up, now let the quest begin. They all up on their high horse like equestrians. A lifetime ago, we used to be the best of friends, but things changed. Now I'm feeling stressed again. I got my sword leveled up, now let the quest begin. I was born in the sewage of the slums. In wartime, sought peace, but no one ever knew if it would come. We were war buddies, working on the same team with the same goal, but with slightly different means. When he hit the scene, he commanded.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Journal of My Life that covers all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Xavier Josiah, and what you are listening to right now is an album from Mega Ran and Game Chops. The world's finest come together and collide with what is called Black Materia, the Remix. This is an album that has been long awaited by fans of both of these guys, and the collaboration came based upon their fandom for Final Fantasy VII. And now that the remake is out, they wanted to do a remake of the album. They came out, there was a Black Materia album prior to, but now, you know, in celebration of the remake, they decided to do their own. So basically what you're hearing right now is songs based on the story of Final Fantasy, and they kind of do a retelling. If you're a fan of hip-hop, and you kind of a fan of Final Fantasy VII, but don't exactly know what is going on, this album easily tells you. This is like Cliff Notes for those who don't totally understand what's going on in the world of Final Fantasy VII. And I love it. And they take it on in sort of a Hamilton approach. So, like, if you know the story of Final Fantasy VII, they take you through this journey in their own way, in the same fashion that Hamilton does. And I told Mega, I text Mega and DJ Cutman, who both were collaborating with this album, and I'm like, you guys can absolutely do this in a sense of turning this into some sort of a playwright, the same way that Hamilton did. And I would love to see a Final Fantasy VII version of a Broadway play done in Hamilton form. I would love to see that. Like, I'm hoping that down the line that they do something of that nature. I mean, like, if anybody can do it, it's DJ Cutman, Game Chops, in Mega Ran. I can see this happening post-COVID, of course. So, keep that in mind, you two. That will be awesome. But definitely, it's out now. You could go to Bandcamp. You could go to Megaran.com. You could go to GameChops.com and get your copy of this. It is an awesome collaboration of these two. I love it. And again, once again, I'm very grateful to be in the path of both of these guys in my own journey and be able to get such great works of art like this. So, keep supporting the arts, keep supporting music, keep supporting all things anime, comics, movies, and games on that fashion. But in terms of the show, we got a lot of news to talk about. And on our talk topic today, I decided to check out INFINI-T FORCE, the series and the movie. I'm going to just review all of it because you can't review one without the other because they both connect. And if you don't know what INFINI-T FORCE is an anime, a CGI anime series. I would say OVA at best, which is if a lot of you New Age otaku don't know, because they don't make OVAs anymore, so to speak. It's original video animation. And basically, they were like short miniseries of anime TV shows, like Ramna 1/2 had one back in the day. Tenchi Muyo had one back in the day. Quite a bit of others. They would have a TV series, but then they would have these specials, and then the specials, the miniseries versions of these shows were done in a more updated, improved form of animation. Like everything was like, if you watch the Ramna 1/2 anime series and then you watch the OVA, you notice that the OVA's animation and quality has stepped up majorly. It looks awesome. So definitely we're going to check this out, because if you're a fan of the Tatsunoko production, such as Gatchaman and Kashin and Tekkaman and all those others, you're going to love this. And trust me, if you're a Gatchaman fan, you're going to be blown away by what I'm going to be talking about. So if you haven't seen it, stay tuned for that. We're going to talk about it all. But we also have a lot of news to talk about in the world of our favorite fandom, so let's not waste any more time. Let's find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
And now, it's time to find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
All right, folks, to start this session off, I want to give my thoughts on the movie The Little Things, which just premiered on HBO Max and in theaters. It's one of the lineup of movies that is coming out for HBO Max on behalf of Warner Brothers. And this one stars Denzel Washington, Rami Malek, and Jared Leto. This is actually a crime thriller. This is something that I normally don't talk about on this show. I normally talk about, more fandom-like things that are connected to comic books or anime or whatnot, or video games or whatnot. Part of A.C.M.G. is movies, and that doesn't like separate what kind of movie I watch here. But I got a chance to see it. I wonder if, a lot of you guys, this is not for kids, by the way, if any kids are listening to this. This is a very sophisticated crime thriller. And my thoughts on this, I really liked it. Denzel Washington, of course, I'm a big fan of. Rami Malek, is one of the people that I'm starting to discover. I never watched Mr. Robot on USA when it was out, or was it Sci-Fi? See, I never watched it. But I heard it was awesome. Jared Leto, of course, I am a fan of, not like as much as Denzel, but, I've seen other projects with him, and he's done pretty well. I'll be honest. He wasn't the best Joker in the world, but he did what he could do for what he was doing. I won't fault him for that, but this movie, he kind of revitalizes himself. Jared Leto as the Joker, to me, was George Clooney as Batman when that came out, and it totally at the time tarnished my thoughts of them. And then they did other films, and I became a complete when I saw the movie Brother, Where Art Thou with George Clooney, I became a complete fan of his after that point. It totally redeemed himself. I think The Little Things for me redeemed my fandom for Jared Leto, because I thought he did a fantastic job in this movie playing this very creepy dude who was suspected of all these murders of females along the way. You got Denzel Washington, who's playing this detective who is just lost. I mean, he's way too deep into what's going on with this crime murder that never got solved back in the day. And then you got Rami Malek, who's supposed to be the straight man detective of this whole thing with, all morals and values and such like that. He won't go and, to do the dirty work that Denzel is willing to do to, he's not going to go that deep. He's trying to keep his morality and composure and ethics with him. Denzel goes so deep that he actually, he had heart failure and, he had to step back a bit. But upon the case, being revitalized, he's coming back, and Rami knows about him and they know how good he is, but he's too good. Rami's character, I should say, decides that he wants to work with him because he thinks he will be a great asset to finding who actually killed this guy, which they suspect is Jared Leto's character. If you haven't watched this right now, I'm going to say fast forward because I am going to spoil this right now. Because there was a major twist in this. And this movie, for many of us, felt like this was going in the same route that Seven did with Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. And it felt like it was getting to the nature of that. It felt like it was going into the actual narrative and direction of that. But then they did a 180 here. And they did this scene where it felt like it was going in the same direction as Seven. And if any of you ever watched Seven, you know what happened at the end. There were, unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately. In this case, there was no box, but there was almost a scene where Jared Leto led, Rami Malek's character onto this ditch, this landfill or whatever this hell, this deserted area, where he was trying to tell him where the body of this woman who was suspected to be missing and murdered is at. And Jared Leto's character was creepy as all hell. It was like he did it, but you had to find out how he did it. And until you do, he can't be convicted. But he's confident, he's cynical, he's a sociopath. I mean, literally a freaking sociopath in here. Not being worried, he knows all of his rights, he's in full control of himself. And they get to this ditch, and Malek's character, decides to dig the area where Leto's character claimed that he was. And all of a sudden, he says, he keeps antagonizing him and saying, like, this is not where it is. This is not the place. It's over here. This man is digging in, like, constantly different places. But then Leto and his crazy ass, I should really be saying their actual real names, or the names of their fictitious characters, I should say. But Leto's character decides that he wants to mention Malek's kids and his wife. And I'm like, okay, here is the Seven part. And we thinking that they're going in this direction. But in a twist of narrative, Rami Malek's character basically hit him with the shovel. And it's not like you just hit him to the point that you knocked him out unconscious. He hit him so hard, so fast, the dude's dead. And I'm thinking, okay, he could have just knocked him unconscious. He could have just hit him with, broke his jaw, maybe concussed him, maybe. No, he killed him. And when he did that, unfortunately, he did not. He lost every opportunity to find out whether this guy really did it, which we all kind of known he did. And they took they literally took it away from us. The opportunity for justice. They took away the opportunity for closure. And in some cases, there's a part of me that hates this. There's another part of me that respects this because they will never get that opportunity. And every once in a while, you get these movies that are greatly written like this. I passionately hate this But in hindsight of that, I love this because they want me to hate this. The writers want me to hate this. They want the audience to hate this. We never get this closure. And guess what? The even sadder part is that this is more realistic than anything, because this is what's happening right now in the world, where we got cops who are doing some underhanded things. We also find out that Denzel Washington's character is deeply disturbed, that he is, he has a past. He made some mistakes in his past and they swept it under the rug. He killed somebody, mistakenly killed somebody, and they swept it under the rug. Now, Malik is in that exact same realm. I want to hate this for real and say this is crap. I respect it. I may not like the way to hit it because I want justice, and I think that a lot of it stems from my real world feeling about how cops are handling things right now. And instead of doing things the right way, they let their emotions get the best of them, and they react to those emotions. This also plays on a lot of the mental health issues that cops are having today. And this is the part where I respect it, because this is what's happening. This is exactly the things that are being told in real life. This is what's happening to my community. So with that said, we don't get the justice, and it just like Denzel, now Rami Malek's character is disturbed by the idea that he killed the guy that he could have found out that he was the guy murderer. Now, granted, Jared Leto's character intimidated him in the sense of saying and threatening his, kids and his wife. In a lot of cases, it is warranted that he deserved what he got. But the law permits us to say that regardless, cops need to stay in control. It goes to show how much cops still fear. Even with a gun, even with everything, they still have fear, and they need to understand how to control that fear. If cops don't fear, then they don't have a need to want to use force like they did in here or even in real life. So to that extent, as much as I didn't like it, I respect it, and therefore I still consider this a fantastic movie. The performances of all three of the main characters here were awesome. Rami Malek also is probably like the young guy in, and I thought he held up well with these two veterans. I thought he did really well, so go out of your way to check this out. Here's the thing. If you're a wrestling fan, I will give you a wrestling analogy to why this pissed me off, and I'll give you a wrestling analogy. Let's say you have, wrestling fans will know this, Kenny Omega versus Rey Fenix. We just saw this match. It was an awesome match, one of the best matches of the year so far. And we got a finish from there. We got actual finish, or we got a conclusion, I should say, because a lot of people maybe not be wrestling fans that are listening right now. You got a conclusive finish. Imagine if you had a match that great, and all of a sudden, the babyface or good guy, which is Rey Fenix in this case, you get this 5-star match, and all of a sudden, he uses a forearm object because Kenny Omega, antagonizes him so much that he ends up using a chair and hits Kenny Omega with it, getting him Rey Fenix disqualified for that match. This match was going to be a perfect 5-star match, and then all of a sudden, he screws it up by hitting him with a chair. That's what the little things has done. Exactly. You had this great storyline. You had this great story being told, and then all of a sudden, boom, you don't get the win. You don't get to see the win that you wanted to see. But it was still a great match along the way. That's exactly what they did here. So wrestling fans understand that. That's the way I can put it as far as what I thought about this film. But nonetheless, this was still a great movie. Go out of your way to check it out. If you have HBO Max, it's free. If you're in theaters, what the hell are you doing? Go to get HBO Max, because you shouldn't be in theaters right now, to be honest. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. But HBO Max is coming out with this along with many others. They are advertising Kong versus Godzilla, which looks awesome. They got Tom and Jerry, which is weirding me out because they're doing that same thing that the Smurfs has done and all the stuff. And Mortal Kombat's coming soon, and a host of many others coming down all through this year. So, check that out and get ready for that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about here is good old Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart is joining the cast of Borderlands movie. It's just been announced. Hart is set to play the character Roland in the movie, who is known to be a character of the first 2 games and was characterized as a mercenary as an ex-soldier turned mercenary. Hart will accompany Cate Blanchett, who is set to play the thief Lilith as well. Still no word on who else is going to be in there, but what is known is it's being directed by Craig Mason of HBO's Chernobyl, and the upcoming Last of Us miniseries, which is also in the works for HBO as well. I have never had the desire to play Borderlands, but I love when games become so popular that they spawn a movie or TV series or whatever, because it gives me an opportunity to see whether I want to play this game, see what all the fuss is about. Projects like these are great because they make casual fans become hardcore if it's done right. So I'm looking forward to this, and it looks like, all right, if Kevin Hart's going to be in there, there's absolutely going to be some comedy in here. So I have yet to see Kevin. Well, actually, that's not true. I was about to say I have yet to see Kevin Hart in a drama. No, that's not true. I just saw him with what's his name? Walter White. It was a movie I saw ages ago with him. Walter White. I'm looking this up now. I just forgot the actor. I'm so stupid. Bryan Cranston, for God's sakes. I feel like a dumbass right now. But yeah, he did that movie with Bryan Cranston, which I really absolutely loved a lot. So he can do drama or action. He does action all the time, but drama, nah. He's done a few times. He does pretty good, but I'm going to assume that this is definitely going to be a comedy. Or is going to have some comedy aspect to it. So I think Borderlands itself has a bit of a comedy pitch to it as well. So it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of HBO, you know what else I'm looking forward to is Justice League The Snyder Cut, which is coming officially on March 18th. Director Zack Snyder posted and announced on Twitter showing 3 awesome monochrome posters showing the release date and of this much anticipated showing. One of the posters paid homage to the Death of Superman comic cover that we all love, which has the flag, but instead of having Superman's cape, it has the Justice League logo on there as well. It for those who don't know, will be an extended uncut version, about 4 hours, which is being made into a multi-part series due to its 4 hour long storyline. So I believe it's going to be an hour each, but Zack Snyder did talk about actually, merging them all together to make one full movie down the line. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to this because everybody's chomping at the bits to see what exactly this is going to entail and how different is this from the Josh Whedon version. And it's just that story, that backstory between Whedon and the cast and Snyder is interesting because at first, when we found out that Zack Snyder's had a tragedy in his family and he stepped down during the filming of this and Josh Whedon came back, it was believed that we all thought that Josh Whedon came in to help him. And, Josh Whedon asked this to happen, and that was the way it was portrayed. That was the narrative of that. Now, all of a sudden, we're getting all this from the actor who plays Cyborg and other comments from everybody about the Josh Whedon version and stuff like that. And it's just crazy. So now we'll see if the Snyder version lives up to all the to what everybody's talking about with the original, with the first version that came out, I should say, because everybody's claiming that this is the original. That's coming out soon. So, all right, last bit of news, and this is a big one. We're going to talk about what just happened on episode 4 of Wandavision. Things have stepped up majorly. Oh, my goodness. I tell you, this is the episode where you start to realize where that $200 million plus budget came in, because the CGI started kicking in, the storytelling started everything started kicking in here. It's just amazing. I got a lot of notes here to go back, so bear with me. The episode starts with the flashback showing Monica coming back from being snapped out of reality thanks to Thanos in the events of Infinity War, or the blip, as what the kids have called it and become a trendy name for their cinematic universe. Monica appears at the hospital where she was last seen with her mother, Maria Rambeau, best friend of Carol Danvers, who we saw in Captain Marvel's movie, who was recovering from a cancer operation. However, in the middle of a chaotic scene in the hospital, as other victims of Thanos reappeared thanks to Tony snapping them all back, Monica was informed by her doctor, who cared for her mother, that the cancer came back, and as a result, her mother has passed away 3 years ago, within the 5 years that Monica and half the universe disappeared. In this episode, we finally see S.W.O.R.D. in full form, as well as the acronym for what it stands for, which is Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division, which is slightly different from what the comic books usually call it. But it is, in fact, that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe version is calling it. We also learned that Monica is a captain of S.W.O.R.D. In the S.W.O.R.D. division, as she returns to discover that her old friend, Agent Tyler Hayward, has been promoted to acting director during this time. We were also told that it was her mother who was one of the founders of S.W.O.R.D. This is going to be interesting how this was formed, because I wonder if Carol Danvers also had a play in this as well. So Maria Rambeau is pretty much the Agent Peggy Carter of the 90s in this case. So it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome that she was there. And they also showed a picture of her in there in tribute, and with the code name Photon, which in fact in the comics is the name of Monica Rambeau. It was one of the names that she took on. So that was awesome. A little play to that, and who knows what that's going to lead into. I want to take note, too, that there are many out there in the media world that is suspecting Tyler Hayward may be connected to or related to another character that was seen on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. by the name of Brian Hayward, who you've seen on Season 1 as one of the super soldiers created during the Centipede Project in the first season. In that season, however, it was mentioned that Brian had a sister, not a brother. So it could be coincidence, or he could be in some other relation of some sort. So could be cousin, could be uncle, who knows? Maybe we'll find out, maybe not. But maybe that could have just been a little wink wink or something of that nature. Because remember, we saw Agent Sosa in the events of the Battle of New York, and then we see him on, in the 50s or something like that in Peggy Carter, and then he's being transferred to the future and ends up joining the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So who knows what the hell's going on in that note. The episode then takes Monica to investigate a town called Westview in New Jersey, which, from what the sheriff of that area explained, it doesn't exist, because he said so because he lives in Eastview. And he's lived there for all his life. There's never been a Westview ever. There are weird anomalies occurring within that region. When she arrives, she meets up with none other than Randall Park, returning in his role as Agent Wu, who first appeared, I should say, in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And I love Randall Park. I love him on everything he does, from Fresh Off the Boat and all the other things he's involved in. He's terrific actor. Terrific comedic actor, I should say, too. We also see that Wu finally was able to master the trick that he saw Scott Lang do in the movie as well. So that was pretty awesome. Just the part I love about Marvel Studios. They reward you. They reward you with patience. They reward you with consistency. We need more of this. I don't understand why other people or other companies don't do this. They reward you so much, and they give you so much to want to ponder. That's why it's all those people who were like, impatient about what was going on in this series because they wanted to see more action. No, you're going to get rewarded in some form of fashion, and you do with every little hints of details like this stuff. They always have you wondering and detecting certain things. It's just awesome. Agent Wu and Monica investigate the outskirts of the area as Wu has a gut feeling that something is not right about this town, which we learn is surrounded by an invisible barrier. Monica uses a drone which significantly bears the colors of Captain Marvel in here to go into Westfield's the field. We then see the drone suddenly disappear into the barrier. Monica becomes curious, realizes that there's an energy around the barrier, only to be sucked in once she touches it. We later notice that Sword. We later see Sword try to fix the situation and search for Monica. They need a specialist to find out more about the anomaly in Westview and requires the help of many scientists, one of which is Dr. Darcy Lewis. Yes, Darcy Lewis, once again played by Kat Denning, who we last seen in the first 2 Thor movies, and working with what was the name? Jane Foster. You know, she was the intern for Jane Foster. Now she is her own. She's earned her doctorate, and she is now a scientist in astrophysics, now capable of handling her own research. And this is again rewarded with, consistent storytelling here. She was the intern of Jane Foster, I should say, in the first 2 movies, and now we were like years ahead. She is now. And it was funny. I didn't know if we didn't really get an idea of, she was interning, but we didn't know if she was going to take it seriously. We see a much more evolved version of Darcy Lewis's character in here. She's way more intuitive. She knows exactly what she's doing. She has had experience based upon what she's worked with Jane and being around Thor and and the professor as well. And now she's doing her own thing. She can handle her own stuff. And I love that they have even character development for even the minor characters in the universe, because they make them feel more important that way. Awesome. Awesome storytelling here. So we later discover that it was her who was watching Wanda and Vision on the TV in the first 2 episodes at the very end, because everything leads up to this. This is still the flashback here happening. We also find out that some of the characters in Wanda's world are actual people in real life that have been sucked into Westview, given different identities, including Monica. We also realize that the man behind the Beehive outfit is in fact a Sword agent sent in by director Hayward to find Monica and whatever else is going on in this mysterious town. He goes down the tunnel wearing a hazmat suit, but upon crossing the barrier, the hazmat suit becomes a beehive suit with bees swarming all over him, and we figure out that he is the one coming out of the sewers in the 1950 sitcom episode, which led to the rewinding of the episode to the scene where Wanda and Viz talks about her being pregnant out of nowhere. So meanwhile, Darcy detects an energy frequency that leads them into seeing Wanda and Vision in the 1950s sitcom as they watch from an old school TV. Darcy recognizes that Vision is with Wanda and acknowledges that he was killed after the events of Infinity War by Thanos, and is very confused as to why he is with Wanda. After research, and this is when she says that's when you start to know things aren't what they seem, and everything your mind starts to develop as you start to hear these things and hear them say this, and things develop. After researching and finding the true identities of other characters, I've already said that part, but I do want to note, upon this little note that I had to repeat, they found all of the identities of every character, but they didn't mention the identity of Agnes. And this situation right here is still picking up. I spoke about on previous episodes how I did not trust this character at all, and this character is going to keep reoccurring in different formats, and this is starting to get even more suspicious. I don't think it was coincidence. I don't think it was a error on their behalf of not mentioning Agnes. I think she is going to be leading up to something, and there's a lot of speculation from a lot of people. I mentioned last time, a lot of people are mentioning Mephisto because she is kind of one of the sworn enemies of Scarlet Witch. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting where that character goes. Darcy and Wu come up with an idea to communicate with Wanda by using a device that is transmitting airwaves into the town of Westview. So we discover that the person who was calling Wanda in the first 2 episodes was in fact Agent Wu and not Hawkeye. Damn it. I was hoping. Darcy and Wu begin to bond a bit while they're watching the episodes because it is in a sitcom form. So, there's a whole story narrative. They play to the formulaic ways of the old 50s and 60s TV shows. So they're just like they're being entertained while still trying to figure out what the hell is going on. But by doing so, they're also like connecting with each other as well. They're Agent Wu was talking about having kids and they wanted to be FBI and all this stuff. And it was a really cute moment. It kind of led you to think like, oh, are they going to be are those two going to be an item of sorts by the time this is over? They then view the scene where Monica mentions Ultron, which we saw last episode, to which Wanda ask if I'm sorry, they what was it? Darcy asked if they ever seen anybody reference something from the real world, to which they said no, they have not. Or I believe that was Wu who asked that question, and Darcy said they were not. While they were watching the scene, they noticed that for a second time there was a glitch or an edit in the episode, which when Wanda asked Monica about how she knew about Ultron, it then cut immediately to the credits. And they were both weirded out by the fact they rewound it, didn't understand what was going on, couldn't catch it. So things started to pick it up. Things are starting to develop more now here and getting a lot more weirder here. In this episode, it's crazy. It just gets so crazy here. While they're watching a glitching episode, they also hear an alarm, which goes off in the SWORD bunker, and the two head out. So while they're heading out, we then see what happens during the edit scene that Agent Wu and Darcy didn't see. This is one of my favorite parts here because, again, the aspect ratio of the screen, once again, goes from old school 4:3 ratio to the letterbox, seen in some movies from like back in the day. You don't do letterbox as much anymore because everything's on a 16:9 ratio for HD and 4K TVs now. But it was awesome to see that that transition to it. It's really cool. And I'm still saying that couldn't have cost over $200 million just to do that. But Wanda felt threatened by Monica and sends her flying through walls out of Westview. I noticed too, it's like, how could she survive this? If you notice that, she didn't necessarily kill her because she had all of her hex energy around her, which probably, took most of the blunt of the force of her going through the walls. So you see Monica shooting out of Westview. SWORD members find her, just as we did in the last episode. Wanda then uses her hex powers to repair. And by the way, they don't call it hex powers, but in the comics, they're known as hex powers. Wanda then uses her hex powers to repair the damaged walls just before Vision comes in asking where Monica went. Wanda told Vision she had to leave. As Wanda turns around, she sees Vision in the way he was seen when Thanos killed her, with the damaged forehead that once had the Soul Stone in it. That was creepy as hell. And everybody remember that scene. It's like when he went Optimus Prime gray and his eyes dilated to just plain white, and it was creepy as hell. And it was even more creepier now because you say this is like the Death of Optimus Prime episode on Transformers. Wanda refuses, Vision first is worried about Wanda and tells her that they can move away from here. Wanda refuses, saying that this is their home and she has everything in control. It was at that point that you kind of had a hint that Wanda is the one controlling all of this, that she is the one responsible for all of this. When we then go back to Monica, still on the ground after being thrown out by Wanda, the paramedics help her Agent Wu and Darcy comes around and checks on her, asks her if she's okay. Wanda wakes up. And asks Monica whether she's okay, and Monica's being helped by the paramedics, I should say. My apologies. Monica then says, it's Wanda. It's all Wanda, as we learned that Wanda is the one behind this all. Wanda Maximoff is the main antagonist of this show so far. What a twist. What a twist. So we see Wanda with the kids in Vision as they sit down in the couch with the kids. And as she does this, we then hear, of all things, Jimi Hendrix's legendary classic Voodoo Child, which is perfect for this situation. This was awesome. And that's how the show ends, as they sit down, watch TV with the kids, happily ever after. And that's how the episode ends. My God. This was by far the best episode to date. This made everything that you saw beforehand made sense. To those who are impatient and quick to judge, shut the hell up. This is what you get. And now you probably won't even admit that this was all makes sense and it is worth watching. I love it. And by the way, Voodoo Child was a song for wrestling fans most synonymous with one Hollywood Hulk Hogan, or I like to call racist Hulk Hogan. I know I denounced this song for him. This is officially Wanda Maximoff's song. This is the song of the Scarlet Witch, officially. Voodoo Child is perfect. It is awesome. Kudos to the person who directed this. I gotta find out who directed this episode, or all the episodes, because they've been fantastic. They have just been awesome. So, man, if you haven't been watching WandaVision yet, you are sleeping on it. If you can't not call yourself a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe or Marvel in general if you're not watching this show. We got 5 more episodes left, and my goodness, what can possibly happen at this point? Who could be coming along? This is all supposed to be connected. Take note to Doctor Strange. Is Agnes actually Mephisto? Is Mephisto available? Anything can happen. I've been wrong, I think, at least twice so far in my predictions of this. It's anybody's game at this point. I don't think anybody is going to be able to figure out what's going to happen next with this. I am just enjoying every minute of it. This is one of those shows where I don't care about being wrong. I care about being entertained. So if I'm wrong, that means good. They did a great job making it suspenseful, and the payoff is going great so far. So, gotta love it. Folks, that will do it for what's new in the world of A.C.M.G. We're going to take a break, come back, and when I do, you got to sit tight and stick around, otaku and anime fans, for my review of Infinity Wars. If you're a Tatsunoko Productions fan, stay tuned for this. You won't want to miss this. We'll find out more after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dak Xavier Josiah, the host of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon, and in the name of the moon, you are listening to ACMG Presents Talk Time Live.
Do it.
And now it's time for our talk topic of the week. Ready? Fight!
All right, folks, welcome back to our talk topic of the week, and it is my review of INFINI-T FORCE, both the series and the movie. I had a chance to check out. Well, I actually watched this series when it first came out a few years ago on Tubi, and it's I believe it's still available on Tubi. If you don't know what Tubi is a free streaming app that has a bunch of movies and actually a pretty considerate library of anime on there and other shows that we haven't seen in a long time. Some shows that you won't see on Netflix or Hulu or something like that. Some of them you will see on there. But what they do have is some exclusivity in terms of anime. And when they first came out, they were promoting INFINIT-T FORCE as one of the exclusives that they had for that app. The other one was, what was it? Tiger Mask W, which is based around the wrestling character from New Japan Pro Wrestling and wrestling legend for that matter. And they were the only ones to have it at the time. Now they're selling it on Blu-ray, on digital, and they've now added the English dub to it. So now a lot of your favorite English dubbed actors, I should say, are a part of this project. And they did a really great job with this, as always. I mean, you got Johnny Young Bosch in here, who's the voice of a lot of people. He's also the Black Ranger. He's Ichigo Kurosaki on Bleach. He's what else is he? Nero on Devil May Cry 4 and 5. I mean, he's done a ton of great, and he's the new Brawly too on Dragon Ball. He took over for when Vic Mignogna had to unfortunately step down from that role, and many others. So he took over that as well. So he in here is playing the one and only legendary Ken the Eagle from Gatchaman. And before I even go too much forward, the series is based on a manga that was made. It was published by Hero Inc. It was also published in English from Udon Entertainment. Shout out to my people out there. And Heroes Monthly magazine. This, if you are a fan of the Tatsunoko Production Company, and if you don't know what that is, first of all, you may be a new age anime fan and not as hardcore as you think. Because if you know what Tatsunoko is, you know that these guys are a legend. This company, this production company, has been responsible for coming out with some of the most iconic and legendary anime, manga, and TV shows of a generation. Matter of fact, when they first came out with their characters, the term anime wasn't even adopted. It wasn't even created, because they were around in the 1970s. So they are responsible for the ones who created Science Ninja Team Gatchaman, Kashan, Hurricane Palamon, Tekkaman, the Space Knight, and many more. Well, because I mentioned those four, they decided to create a crossover series that involves many of those main characters and bring them together to create some, major like Avengers super team and some sort of a Crisis on Infinite Earth type of storyline. This is awesome. This was a awesome series. I'm going to just say it off the bat. What I loved about this series is that it brought me back to what I loved about anime, and it celebrated what made anime, or what pioneered it in a sense. And this was commemorating the 55th anniversary of it at the time, and it's probably like 59th anniversary at this point, but because it's been out since 2015, and then the TV series came out in October 17th, and the movie came out in February of 2018, and now it's on English. It's been revamped for English for us who love that ADR feel. So let me get to the plot of this, because it's crazy. And I mentioned Crisis on Infinite Earth, and this is like their version of Crisis on Infinite Earth. This is how the crossover thing happens, because normally you would never see Gatchaman, or for those who from back in the day, Gatchaman was also known in America as Battle of the Planets as well. So, which is the TV series that used to come on our stations and the local stations back then, when it was only 3 channels, 6, ABC, NBC, and CBS. There was no HBO, Showtime, Max, any of that stuff. It was just we had 3 channels. We were as archaic and Paleolithic as ever in terms of TV at the time. And then you had the UHF channels as well. So the plot of this basically, and I'll read the plot off of what Wikipedia have, and then I'll piggyback off it, because there's more to it. It all involves a girl named Emmy, who is a 17-year-old girl living in Tokyo. Her father is always with work, and she is listless. In other words, she is basically kind of an introvert, kind of a bit depressed, daunting, isolated, that type of vibe. Like nothing matters to her because of her loneliness. Take note that her name Emmy, which is spelled E-M-I, in Japan and in some cases means laughter or smile. So that kind of plays into her character. Suddenly, a twist of fate involving a certain magical item changes everything. A mysterious pencil, which they call a case for some reason, I don't know why, because there's no pencil case involved. It's just a pencil that they call a case. Of all things, is linked to the appearance of heroes from another world. Could this be the start of the excitement she's so desperately craving? Or is this something more? And indeed it is, because what this really involved and what the plot on Wikipedia doesn't really tell you is that there's a evil force behind this in the form of a man named Z. Z is a guy who's going around and discovering parallel worlds and destroying them. He's doing a lot of research. He's a scientist, and upon the discoveries of the parallel worlds, he's destroying them for his own means. What that means is it's his own daughter, which just happens to be Emmy. Z is Emmy's father. And what basically is happening here is that he is destroying all these worlds due to an incident that happened when him and his daughter in another world wind up in a terrible, tragic accident where Emmy died as a little kid. When we see Emmy, she's 17 years old. But in the world that Z was in, she was only a little kid. She never even got a chance to grow up to be 17. And this literally crushed him. This turned him into madness. And him being the researcher and the scientist himself, he decided that he found a way to find these parallel worlds and destroy them because he didn't want to. He found out, basically, I should say, that he found out that his daughter's fate is virtually the same in every one of these parallel worlds. So in order to save her, he needed to keep her captive. And how he did that was he held her in a world where she could be safe, where he felt that he could be safe. So it was just, she's in this sort of dimension where she's always going to be safe. In hindsight, it's actually her being held captive in jail, while the other Emmys around these parallel universes are dying, and he's destroying them because he doesn't want to see her die again. So he's doing all this for her protection, when in fact she feels that it's being encapsulated. She doesn't understand why at first, but she learns down the line of what's going on. And that's why she's always alone, because he's constantly doing these things. Now, because all these worlds are being destroyed, some of these worlds consist of Juji Ken Washio, Juji Manami, Takashi Yuri, and Tetsuya Azuma. All of which is Gatchaman G1, it is Tekkaman, it is Hurricane Palomar, and Kashan. All of these guys worlds are being destroyed, and somehow, some way, it all leads them to this world where Emmy lives, and they all manage to come together, and now they're fighting against Z and his cohorts, which is Damian Gray, Bella Lynn, who's like a vampire, and Raji Khan. All of these guys that are teaming up with Z. So all through these 12 episodes, this is a 12 episode OVA series. This is what I love, is old school. Again, if you're a new age anime fan, you don't know what OVA is. OVA is original video animation. That's what they used to call them before. I don't know why. I think the term just stopped. I haven't heard anybody ever say OVA anymore. But if you don't know, OVA is something that they used to do, in the 90s, where they would have like a short mini series where it involves is based on a TV show version of the anime, or it's just an original video animation of something, but the animation was top quality. It was done better than it was before. I'll give you two examples. One is Ramno 1/2. If you guys ever watched that series, it used to be like one of the most popular series in the 90s at the time. It's from the people who made Inuyasha. In other words, because people were popular with that because of the new series as well. But Ramno 1/2 became so popular. It also released movies and then also an OVA, which the OVA was, if you compare the OVA, the quality and the look of the OVA in terms of animation and character design to that of the series, it's a step up. And that's not taking anything away from the original series. The original series was always, cool when it comes to animation and stuff. But the OVA version was always better. Tenchi Muyo also was a really good one as well. I thought they did a really great job with the OVA. There was two versions of Tenchi Muyo. There was the TV series version, and then there was the OVA version that kind of told two different stories as well. So, they kind of take liberties with the OVA versions at times, but they were always like short mini-series versions of them. And this is kind of what they did here. This is a short mini-series involving those four. And now you have all four of these characters that would never, ever have met each other on normal circumstances because they all have their own worlds. Each one of these characters, Tekkaman, Gatchaman, Hurricane Palomar, and Kashan, have their own universes, their own worlds in which they have their own evil forces that they have to fight. They would never see the light of day until this anomaly that happened that Z is creating by destroying every one of these worlds. And now their job is to try to work with Emmy because she has this new pencil case, which, believe it or not, is actually said to be her brother and Z's son that turned into a case. Has this magic pencil has the ability to grant wishes, and only a certain person can be the holder of this, can actually do it. Emmy is that person. However, because of her manic depressant or how can I say this, or her introverted ways, she doesn't care. So she is not able to ignite the pencil or the case at will, or she won't, because she just doesn't care. She doesn't see the purpose or value of life, nor other lives as well at this time. So, her and Ken constantly have a back and forth because Ken is 24 years old in this series, and she's 17 years old. So he treats her like her daughter. And she keeps calling him old man, even though he's only 24. It's a funny dynamic, those two. But I want to take note. If you're a Gatchaman fan, you'll be surprised to know that why he's the only one out of the four. Gatchaman is a team of science ninjas dressed up in different bird forms, representing different bird forms. Ken is the eagle. There is also Joe the condor. There's also other birds as well. There was a whole team of this. Apparently, they were a part of the destruction of their worlds, and Ken was the only one to survive as he was fighting Galactor, which is one of the main villains of Gatchaman in there. So that's his situation. Tekkaman 2. I used to watch Tekkaman in the 90s when it came out on TV as well. And, he had his own form of enemies and such as well. All of them did. Now, the only other time that you've seen these guys cross over, and this is for you gamers out there if you're a Nintendo Wii fan, was Tatsunoko versus Capcom. This was one of the most awesome crossover fighters that we may never get a chance to play ever again, because for some reason Capcom and Nintendo are letting this sit on the shelf. This was a game that involved a lot of the Tatsunoko Production characters involved with all the Capcom characters. And it came out for the Nintendo Wii long ago, and it was awesome. That's the only other time you got to see any of these characters coming together like this. And I think that's why I love this so much too. Not only just because the animation and the character design is so awesome, and this is in 3D CG, and this is some of the best 3D CG anime I've ever seen. They did a great job with this, and then to add on the voice acting and everything, which really worked really well with this. Just awesome. But you get a chance to see these guys fleshed out, and what's funny, because this is a manga series, I still want to know if this is canon, because a lot of the things that happens here and in the movie is just mind-blowing. You're going to see a lot of great fight scenes. You're going to see a lot of great action. The pacing of this series is really well done. The character design is phenomenal. Just beautiful. I love some of the design work, because when you watch those anime shows back in the day, you don't have that attention to detail. But when you look at like Ken's Eagle Gatchaman suit, you can see how well detailed it is and how, great the design work is on there, and polymers, all of them. It's just so well done. I really, really enjoy this. But, the pacing of the story throughout the whole entire thing, if you really pay attention to it, you could get lost kind of quick if you don't pay attention to this series. But, it gets fleshed out. You don't see what's going on at first and why, or they don't tell you at first what happens, but you do figure out later on why this is happening and why he's doing what he's doing. So he's not, again, it's one of those, Z becomes one of those in the gray type of characters, but he's willing to do whatever he can to save his daughter. Meanwhile, Emmy is the type of person that wants to live her life. I say that she's manic depressant, and I say that she's an introvert, but at the same time, the other qualities that she has is that she's a very strong, independent girl. When she has a back and forth with Ken, because Ken is kind of outdated. He's a straight-laced, old-school type of guy, even though he's from the future. He is very chauvinistic. I want to say very chauvinistic, but he has chauvinistic personalities. And, like, there are times where he talks to her and reprimands her in a way that, like, you don't do that anymore. He says things that aren't really acceptable anymore in today's society, and she addresses him every single time with that. So I love how she does this. Like, when he assumes that she's gonna cook for all of them, she's like, no, what are you talking about? Nobody says things like that anymore. Go do it yourself. And she had to come at him twice and really put him in his place, and I love that. So, and it just shows, because Gatchaman is a old series, so you got you got this guy here who's from an old era and everything. It's hilarious. But, these guys wind up fighting together, and it's awesome. Ken, I love. Joji is really cool too. Joji's kind of like the Donatello of the crew, because he's a scientist, and he's the one, when he's not in the Tekkaman suit, which, by the way, to put on his suit, he has to go through a hell of a lot of pain. They show when they show the transformation on the original anime series, they never show him going through, like, having lasers being shot at him just to merge with the suit. He has scars all over his body in this damn thing. And I'm like, if that's what it takes to wear that suit to be a little bit more powerful, I don't know if I'm down with this. But when he's not in this suit, he's an astronaut, and he has an understanding of how things work. So he's pretty much he's as much of the scientist of the group than anything. He's a little bit, probably one of the more smarter ones. You have Takeshi, who's Hurricane Palomar. He's a detective, an agent. So, at the beginning of the series, he ends up getting hired by Damon Gray and, to do some research on Z. But Takeshi learns sooner or later that, he has other intentions, and that he's after Emmy to get the case for himself, so he can, make his own wish and control and become more powerful. Whereas Z just wants it so Emmy can be safe, but he's willing to destroy all these, errors to do it. Bella Lynn, who works with Z as well, she's just one of those, bat crazy, literally, no pun intended, these bat crazy women who just happens to be a vampire and wants to, absorb the genes of every person, including Z. So, he has his rogue gallery here. They got their rogue gallery. Kashan, and on the other hand, is, he's not a real human, but he is also, if you watch any of the Kashan animes, that he used to be a human, but he's pretty much Mega Man. I just plain and simple. He's Mega Man. Real name, he was transformed into an android, basically, to fight against other androids who threaten the human race, pretty much. So he's kind of he's kind of the straight lace. He doesn't really have that much in terms of personality and such, because he's an android, but he does have some humanistic qualities in here as well. But all these four legendary characters teaming up with Emmy to fight Z and them, it turns out to be an absolutely awesome battle. And, of course, they managed to, get everything works out at the end, of course, but in such an epic way. The fight scenes, again, are beautifully done. I mean, you talk about this celebrating the 55th anniversary of Tatsunoko. This really does celebrate it very well. And if you're a fan of any of these characters that I mentioned, you're going to love it. If you haven't seen this yet, you're going to absolutely love this. But I tell you this, you can't watch this without watching the movie, because the movie connects and it transitions very well to what's going on. The movie, entitled Farewell Friend. Oh my goodness. I was not expecting any of what I saw in this movie. Like, it blew me away. And this is the movie. In this movie, I question whether I hate to use this term, but I think this is more appropriate for this particular situation. I was wondering if this was in fact canon to the actual series of, Gatchaman and any other series that ever came out, because this involves a twist. Like, if you're a Gatchaman fan, you have to watch the movie. First of all, I don't recommend anybody watching the movie without watching the first 12 episodes, because it all intertwines with each other. Now, granted, in the movie, in Farewell Friend, in Infinity Force Farewell Friend, I should say, it gives you a 15-minute recap of everything that happened in the first 12 episodes leading up to what's about to happen here. It does a great job recapping everything, but I will say that if you never saw the first 12 episodes, you're going to be confused about what the hell happened in there in its totality. So it's best to just watch the first 12 episodes. And plus, it's just a really great OVA miniseries. I just highly recommend it. But they recap for the first 15 minutes of Farewell Friend. And then it gets interesting, because this movie basically involves Gatchaman. And all you Gatchaman fans out there, you're going to flip when you see this movie. So this is interesting because, all right, I'll read the story off of the website here. And once again, I'll go off from that. At the end of the battle, and that means the last battle of the 12 episodes, Gatchaman Ken, Tekkaman Joji, Palomar Samurai, and Kashan Tetsuya, who's Kashan's real name, who regained their worlds and returned to where they should live, thanks to Emmy wishing everything to come back. There is a world where the human enemy Galactor, who threatens peace, rages, and the Science Ninja team led by Gatchaman fights against it. So they're now, and this movie is based around the world of Gatchaman. However, a man appears in front of him who feels uncomfortable with the state of the world. It is Dr. Nambu. Now, I gotta explain who's the founder of Science Ninja Team. I gotta explain about Dr. Nambu for those who've never watched, Gatchaman or Battle of the Planets. Dr. Nambu is the Professor X of Gatchaman. He is the one who created the Science Ninja Team suits. He's the one who recruited every one of the team members to be in this, and he's the guy that has a sort of a moral and ethical path to defeating Galactor, because they were an alien threat trying to take over the world, and Gatchaman was the one team that was capable of beating these guys. Galactor is pretty much Hydra, but I never understood this, because I know the leader of Galactor has a name, but they also called the leader of Galactor in the series. But the leader, Galactor, had a way of disguising itself or themselves. And I say themselves because maybe Gatchaman was ahead of their time, but this character was a bit of a flamboyant character, in the sense that you didn't know if it was man or woman, and they kept it really. The character was so mysterious. It sounded female, had a feminine personality, but also a masculine personality as well. So you never really got to see the real face of Galactor, nor know what it was, nor what they were, because they were pretty much disguising themselves as anything and anybody. But when you put them into the regular form, you still didn't know, because it was such a great thing. It was like this character is ahead of its time in terms of character development and orientation or whatnot. And it was always a threat to the entire world of Gatchaman. So Dr. Denbu was the one thing that stood in Galactor's way. But in this movie, a lot has changed. For one thing, Gatchaman, with the exception of Ken, have all died. So that was a big twist due to situations that occurred, and during a mission. And this really crushed Dr. Nambu, almost in the same way that it crushed Z when Emmy died as a kid. The same thing virtually happened to Dr. Nambu, and it changed him so much that he started, his way. Now his methods were always questioned, because a lot of times he would do things for the sake of science, and whenever you have a scientist do things for the sake of science, there becomes a gray area. It's never for the sake of good. It's never for the sake of bad. For the sake of science, it may not be for the best, but it is for the sake of science. And sometimes his methods will be questioned. Now, but at the end of the day, during the TV series or maybe even the manga, it was never questioned in a way that he would ever become rogue. Not this time, because Dr. Nambu in this movie went full blast rogue. Even when Ken found out what he was up to, he shot Ken. It was just crazy. So he wound up trying to take out Ken, and then wind up, creating his own agenda. He had his own new science project that he's coming up with that will probably be better than what Gatchaman has done, with a new type of energy, sense of energy. Think, arc reactor, I guess. But it was just crazy. Minami, who turns a suspicious expression on Ken, who should have known him, tells the heroes unexpected words. Apparently, you guys are the enemies. And there was a shadow starting at the situation from the top of the building. It is the number 2 of the Science Ninja team who continue to fight Galactor with Ken. And his name is Joe the Condor. So we find out in this movie that Joe the Condor somehow managed to stay alive. Not only is he still alive from the events, because they had a whole memorial for the Science Ninja team at the same time. But unbeknownst to any of them, Joe was still alive. For those who don't know, I can give a comparison to Joe. Joe the Condor is like the co-leader or second in command of Gatchaman. But here's the thing about him, that if you never watched Gatchaman before there was ever a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and before there was ever a Raphael, like from the comic book sense, and some of the recent, cartoons or comics or whatever, there was Joe the Condor. Joe the Condor was the original hothead dude that would always go with he would go against the grain. He would always go off on his own. He's a loner. There were times he would just mess up the mission because he would go and do his own thing. And the reason being is because Galactor, when he was young, killed his parents. And he's been in a vengeful, tear to try to take out Galactor and kill Galactor ever since, or take out anybody out his way. He's pretty much the Punisher in this case with a science ninja suit on. And if you watch the original series, there's 2 versions of the original series with 2 different results. The American one, here's the thing, this was funny. In America, Battle of the Planets, Joe's still alive, because back in the 80s and the 70s, there was no such thing as when it comes to cartoons. Back then it was cartoons. There was no anime. The term anime didn't exist. I want to repeat that. Back then, when that animated series or cartoon came out, in America, you never saw anybody die. no character ever dies. No character ever gets shot. No character ever gets stabbed. There was none of that happening in the 90s because the FCC wasn't having it back then. The restrictions of that was way, way stricter. It was way tighter. You would never see that in the 70s and 80s in terms of animated series or cartoons that didn't have ratings of R. And it was only a few animated projects that would have it, had that, Heavy Metal and maybe some other ones, Fritz the Cat, something like that. You would ever see do anything above what you see, but those animated projects will be seen in theaters. But if it was seen on regular TV on a national basis, none of that. You would never see that. The most violent you would see was Tom and Jerry at the time, or Bugs Bunny, or Brainy Smurf getting kicked out of the village. That's as far as you went. But in Japan, where they were considered more sophisticated and mature to handle this type of content, Joe the Condor dies, and he dies violently. He goes out really bad. So it's really crazy that he's still alive in this. He manages to find the team and Ken, and they also find out that Joe's working with this new agency who also wants to take Dr. Nambu down, and this new project that he's involved with. But you learn some things afterwards that it's a little bit. They have a more secret agenda towards why they want to get Dr. Nambu, but it just turns out to be a crazy ride from start to finish. The same great animation is on here. The same great character development is in here as well, and it really steps up. Emmy is also a part of this as well, because part of the source that they're looking for is Emmy in that case. She still has the pencil, the magic pencil, if you will, and Dr. Nambu feels that can be that McGovern object can be a really great source to helping him do what he does. He also has an entirely new Science Ninja team, which looks a lot like, if you watch, there was a 3-episode OVA years back that I believe director Masami Obari created for Gatchaman, and there was another Galactor had their own Science Ninja team that looked a lot like the one that Dr. Nambu made in this one, but it was, he has his own team that is said to be way better, and he's going to make sure that what happened to the, original Gatchaman team would never happen again. And he's not only doing that, but he's also trying to make these suits accessible to everybody. And that's where a lot of people, seeing the problem with, because he's trying to give this type of power to everybody so they won't be afraid to fight against evil. And evil threats that they had to do with Galactor. And he's just gone mad. His whole entire, philosophy and view has totally changed from what he's done in the original series. And all through this time, I'm over here thinking, okay, maybe this is Galactor in disguise, and he's kidnapped Dr. Nambu, or maybe he even killed Dr. Nambu. No, this is Dr. Nambu the entire time. He is like the total threat. His evil 70s, hairstyle and mustache is all there and everything. I was blown away by what they did with this. And then here's the part. I won't spoil what happens at the end, because I was not expecting any of this to happen. And let me tell you this. This is not a kid's series at all. This was clearly made for the fans of Tatsunoko. And it gets really dark and violent at the end. I mean, really dark and violent. And you will not be prepared for what you're about to see, especially if you're a Gatchaman fan, because it just comes out of the blue. It comes out of nowhere. It's crazy. I tell you what, this and the movie combined, and this is why I had to actually do both, because you can't do one without the other, and it's just awesome. The entire series is awesome. I gotta go find the actual Udon Entertainment manga and start reading that, because maybe there's some other things that I can learn from that one as well. But if you're a fan of any of these characters, any of these comics, any of these animes, if you grew up with this back in the day like I did, like the early days of anime, Like, I can't say, like, if you ask me what was the first anime that really made me a fan of anime, when the term anime and Japanimation first came around, I would possibly say it was Fist of the North Star, because that's when I started recognizing all of these awesome animated, beautifully drawn, beautifully character designed, works of art. But lo and behold, honestly, I got to date it back to Speed Racer. I got to date it back to Star Blazers. I got to date it back to Battle of the Planets. Because those were the ones that used to come on every day when I was probably like maybe 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever like that. It used to come on TV every day. And we grew up with this. So if you're a fan of this, I mean, wow. And then later on, I started seeing the other episodes and the other series and watched it through. And boy, there are differences between the American and the U.S. one, I tell you that. But man, I tell you, and the movie too. There's the movie Battle of the Planets, which it kind of just it condenses the entire series into one. But that also has the Japanese version where you see the results of Joe the Condor there as well. So it's out there. You can find it. You can absolutely find it. But if you're a fan of this series, you need to get this series, and you're going to be blown away. If you've never seen any of these characters, these awesome characters, I highly recommend. I say watch the series. If you like that, watch the movie. But then if you like the movie, go find every one of these anime series: Tekkaman, Kashan, Gatchaman, and Hurricane Palomar. Go find them all and really understand why they are being celebrated in this day and age, because INFINI-T FORCE is a great celebration of this. It's just fantastic. And now, again, because you waited so long, it's now in English. It has a lot of the best of the best doing it. Like I said, Johnny Young Bush is doing voice of Ken. Kyle McCarley is Joji Manami, aka Tekkaman. You got Takeshi Yoroi as Hurricane Palaman, is played by Nicholas Roy. And you have Kashan, played by Landon McDonald. And Emmy plays by Cassandra Morris as well. So, Z is played by Keith Silverstein, Damian Gray, Xander Mobus, and Bella Lynn is Julie Ann Taylor. So you got all these great, actors and performers in here doing this, and it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. So, of course, when I'm saying all these great things about it, what other grade can I give this? Both the series and the anime, but an A+. I highly recommend you go after this. This is a great tribute to a legacy that is Tatsunoko. Like, if I could get this, if I have this now, and it's available, I got this on the iOS for Apple TV, so I have it on there. You can also get it on Blu-ray as well and other digital formats. Or if you want to watch it for free, but you won't get the English version, you'll get the subtitle for those, especially those anime uppity folks. Tubi TV should have it for free. You just will have to go through a lot of ads and all that stuff because it's free. You got to pay ads, and guess what? Unfortunately, they don't have a premium version. It's a totally free app. But I will give them credit. They got some pretty good content on there as well. So go check it out. And Tubi is spelled Tubi. I just want to point that out because I'm sure it sounds like you would know, but you probably say Tubby. But no, it's Tubi. And they got commercials now out for it. They've been out for years, and they just now got commercials. So I guess they finally got a budget in this case. But go out of your way, check it out in any way possible that you can. But if you're a fan of English dub actors and like I am, and and the subs too, you have both. Go out of your way to find it. By the way, it's funny. Somebody had a meme recently that said, I found it funny, for the anime uppity community, the people who think that the subs are better than the dubs and they prefer to listen to the English dialect, or they think it's a whole thing. There's a meme out there that somebody posted on an A.C.M.G Facebook group that said, hey, something in terms of, you uppity pretentious bastards or something like that. You got to read, if you got to read English text during Japanese sub, then you're also not really, you're not really enjoying the actual content, because you still got to read it and read the English translation as well. So something of that nature, but it's ridiculous. Like, love what you love, but don't act like one is better than the other, because lo and behold, and I had Tokyo Rose on this show before, a friend of mine who goes by that name, who is from Japan, tell us that it doesn't matter, because some of the voices in Japan aren't the best, despite the fact that some Americans think that it's the best. And she prefers some of the American voices over the Japanese voices, her own native land, people. So take it for what you will. But go out of your way, check it out. INFINIT-T FORCE is available all over the place. The manga is also still in running, from what I understand. And go out of your way and check it out. It's awesome. Folks, that will do it for this edition of Talk Time Live. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to check out this episode. It is a snowy day. It is for most of the East Coast, is a snowstorm, so be safe out there. Not just for the snow, but for COVID as well. Again, thank you all. Recently, for those who don't know, who didn't listen to the Select Start episode, want to thank everybody who gave their warm well wishes to my sister, who she's my sister in blood, but we have different mothers, and we got we have the same father, but her mother recently passed away from COVID, and it is very unfortunate, but this is the situation that we have to deal with. And all I got to say is, people, please be safe and keep everybody else safe, and just do what you can so we can get out of this. We're getting to the point of getting this all taken care of now that the vaccines and everything going, but we still got ways to go. So continue to keep looking out for each other. Have a heart. Be a hero. Mask up. Keep everybody safe. So, and because you never know, just because you don't know somebody who passed away, or you don't know somebody in your family is died from it or experienced it, doesn't mean that it doesn't matter. It does. We need to start having a heart. We're starting a whole new chapter of our country and world, for that matter, and let's change it. Let's do something great with it together. So, folks, one of the things that you could do as well is follow this show. Tell everybody about this show. Rate this show on whatever platform that you're listening to, and keep supporting us. You can check us out on TalkTimeLive.com, where you can find all of our episodes and our exclusive interviews with some of the best. And guess what? We got more people coming. It's gonna be take some time to come, but we got a lineup coming soon. It's starting to build. Probably somebody very soon this week too. I'm gonna have a friend of mine actually maybe coming on soon to join me on this show, co-hosting on the show and talking about what he does, and I'll explain that in due time. But you can check us out on TalkTimeLive.com, but the exclusives on there, you can click on that. There's Talk Time Live exclusives, and you can find all of our interviews with some of the best in all of anime, comics, movies, and games. You name it. And actors from your favorite anime, game developers of some of your favorite games and iconic games, producers of some of your favorite TV shows or whatnot, and just and comic book artists as well. Just an awesome amount of people. You go to TalkTimeLive.com/exclusive, or go to TalkTimeLive.com, click on that exclusive tab, and you will find them all there. And also, if you want to subscribe and download and never miss a beat, you could go to your favorite podcast platforms such as Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, TuneIn, Audible, Pocket Cast, and Pandora. I swear I'm going to lose my breath if I keep adding more to this. So you have all the places. There's not one place you can't find this show. And thank you to the ever-growing amount of listeners on this show. I am so humbled by this recent growth of downloads and subscribers and listeners as well. So thank you all. Don't know what I'm going to be doing next week, but damn sure we will be back, both on Select Start and on the Prime show of Talk Time Live as well. So stay tuned for that and much more. But for now, please, guys, be safe. Like, just seriously, be safe out there. It's snowing out there. I guess COVID really screwed it up for kids when it comes to school, because now they can't just stay home. They can do virtual classes. Sucks to be them. I swear. On that note, folks, I will let it go from there. So, on behalf of myself, this is Dak Xavier Josiah saying learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here. Take care. Music for this episode is provided by Game Chops. Check out these great chiptune tracks and more at music.gamechops.com.